I will call to order at this time the Committee on House Administration's Florida 13th Task Force, and I apologize for the slight delay, but we were having problems getting over here, obviously, with traffic and such, so my apologies. We're going to attempt to be brief today and hear the final report by GAO, but first I think that it would be appropriate for me to extend my thanks, of course, to my fellow members of the task force, and that would be Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren and Kevin McCarthy from California. I also want to extend my thanks to Congressman Dan Lundgren, who was not an official member of the task force, but nevertheless attended some of the meetings and offered some very constructive advice, which actually was followed. And so, Dan, I want to thank you. To the majority and minority staff, again, thank you, because at the end of the day, of course, all of the work is truly predicated on the product that they produce for us as we go through the machinations of the task force. And definitely to the late Congresswoman Juanita Millender McDonald, and you see her portrait in the back of the room, for her fine service, and the individual who actually created this task force with a simple charge of get it right and get to the truth, which hopefully that's what we've done. I also want to extend the task force and the committee sincere thanks to the Government Accountability Office for their fine work. I think when we first selected them, they entered it with some reservation. I think the concern of any agency or department as many times is that Congress or members of Congress will drag them into a political debate, which would not serve, of course, their mission or their purpose and would jeopardize their objectivity. That did not occur, and we appreciate that they were able to assist us to the degree and the fine manner in which they did. I will be making an opening statement, then I will be recognizing the members of the task force for opening statements. Clive Thompson, writing in the January 6, 2008 issue of the New York Times Magazine, in an article entitled, "Can You Count on These Machines?" makes the following observation. The mistrust of touchscreen machines is thus equal parts technological and ideological. Technology is subject to empirical analysis. Ideology is not. So today we address that which we are capable of resolving through the scientific method. That is, the technological mistrust surrounding the November 2006 election for the office of the United States Representative from Florida's 13th Congressional District. The challenge presented before the task force was to determine the merit and validity of the central allegation contained in contestants' notice of contest, that the electronic voting machines in Sarasota County malfunctioned, resulting in 18,000 undervotes, thus bringing into question the reliability of the vote totals determining the winner of the election as reported by the Florida state officials to the United States House of Representatives. The task force at the outset decided that it would not entertain testing and findings by opposing experts designated by the contestant and contestee, thus avoiding a dueling experts dilemma. Rather, the task force unanimously decided that the United States Government Accountability Office, with its credentialed resources, would serve as the impartial and independent expert. The task force further agreed that it would abide by the GAO's findings, barring some substantial basis to question those findings. Today, the Government Accountability Office will formally present its final report. Following established task force procedure, GAO did make a preliminary briefing before the task force on February 6, 2008 of its draft report. I want to make an important point. The task force has respected GAO's established procedures and protocols. Until a final draft is prepared and presented, GAO's draft report remains a work in progress. On February 6, at the preliminary briefing, task force members determined that the contestant and the contestee, or their representatives, should have a copy of the draft report. This was to allow them to review the materials and convey any questions or concerns to the task force in preparation for today's meeting. I am aware that the draft report was made publicly available, contrary to the spirit of cooperation and respect for GAO's procedures and protocol. I apologize to the United States Government Accountability Office, for this was not what I preferred and was contrary to what I stated and requested at the February 6th briefing. This development is not conducive to creating and maintaining a healthy working relationship between Congress and GAO based on trust and mutual respect. With that, I will recognize the minority member of the task force, Congressman McCarthy, for an opening statement.
Well, thank you, Chairman Gonzalez. Before we begin, I do want to thank the GAO for the work they have done. I also notice Kurt Browning, Secretary of State of Florida, for the work you have done. You did the study before, and as GAO went down, they were very complimentary of how you opened it up, made sure as we went all the way through. And I want to thank this committee, and especially Chairman Gonzalez, because I think you have laid the groundwork of how contested races in the future should be handed out. I thought every decision or every vote, we came to a conclusion of in a bipartisan manner. And going to the GAO was something new, and with my own experience actually having been a staffer and worked on contested races before, I think this is one that has been more thoroughly analyzed than any one before it. So I do appreciate the work you've done in all the committee, as well as Zoe Lofgren, and I thought everybody worked in a bipartisan manner, so thank you for that. Today we'll hear the report of the GAO's investigation on this most studied election. The results are as clear as we can objectively expect. After thoroughly combing and analyzing past studies and conducting its own studies to confirm past results, that there is no evidence suggesting any malfunction of the processing and counting of ballots on the DREs. We will hear from the GAO today and ask about its report that concludes that the machines counted votes accurately. With this final objective confirmation, I hope that we can finally put to rest for the people of the 13th District of Florida the notice of contest that the challenger Christine Jennings filed asking that the House to overturn the election results against Congressman Vern Buchanan and send a strong message to the American people that the results of the 2006 election, in this particular election, have been and were always correct. And I look forward to hearing the rest of the report.
Thank you very much, and the chair will recognize Ms. Lofgren.
I would just add that I think I agree with the other members of the task force. This has been an endeavor that has been bipartisan. I think all of our votes have been unanimous. We entrusted the analysis to experts at the GAO, and we didn't interfere with them in any way. We let them go through their study, and now they have reached a conclusion. And I would only note that if we had, as the GAO has noted, if we'd had a paper trail, we would have certainly not had to go through this exercise. So this will never happen again in Florida, because Florida, pursuant to the governor's direction, I think, in the legislature, no longer uses these machines, and there will always be a paper trail. And so this will be the last such contest we will see from the state of Florida, and hopefully as states change their election systems, we will never have this type of situation again. I would just like to thank again the staff, the members of the committee, and especially you, Mr. Chairman, for your terrific leadership in this not an easy endeavor, but I think we have done our duty to the institution fairly and under the Constitution. And thank you.
Thank you very much. And even though not a formal member of the task force, but members, of course, the full committee, to which we will be making a recommendation, hopefully at the end of this meeting today, I do want to recognize for brief opening statements, and that would be the ranking member of the full committee, Mr. Ehlers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the majority of the statement, what I want to say is to commend you and the other members of the task force. It is obvious to me that your judicial experience has been invaluable to you in this. Your judicial demeanor in handling this has been exemplary, and I deeply appreciate it. I've served on several task forces and chaired one. I know how difficult the task can be, and you've been very fair, thorough, and even-handed in the handling of this. You've set an example for all the task forces of the future, and I think I really commend you for that. The second comment I would like to make is a very important side benefit of what we have gone through with this, including the use of the GAO and the work done in this, I think has set a good example not just for us but for the nation, and it will restore the confidence of the public in the process. It was not a coincidence that 4 of the contest. There was only one contest that was filed outside of Florida, and that had to do with residency, not machines. But four of the other four were filed from Florida, and they questioned the machines. Obviously, because of the experience Florida has had over the past decade, there's a spillover here. The public has lost confidence in the results. And I think the result of this is going to demonstrate to the public that the voting process, by and large, is proper, correct, and believable, and that the public should not question the accuracy of election results as they have done for the past 8 to 12 years. So you have set an example and a standard that is very helpful to the nation as well as in resolving this case, and I thank you for it.
Thank you very much for your kind words, and the chair will recognize Mr. Lundgren for some brief opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, thank you for your indulgence in allowing me to participate in the hearings of this task force, although I was not a member. More than 20 years ago, I was a member of the full body when there was a contested election, the results of which caused bitterness in the House and partisanship was exacerbated. I genuinely did not want us to return to those days. And was most interested in how this contest would be handled. And while I did not know the chairman well before this hearing, before the hearings, I did serve with his father and enjoyed my relationship with his father and only knew the chairman by reputation. But I want to thank you, not only on my behalf, but on behalf of all members for the way that you conducted this task force. This was somewhat of a test of our House as to how we would handle this, not only because there were questions raised about the election results, but the nature of the contest. And I think your judgment in having GAO get involved, which was adopted unanimously by the other members of the task force, was very, very essential in the manner in which this was handled. And while I know we're still awaiting the report, I've looked at the draft report, and I think I know what they're going to tell us. And I think this does help restore confidence in the ability of this House to be able to handle touchy matters like this. But also, it is an example to the American people of where we can work on a bipartisan basis, where it is easy to be partisan otherwise. And I thank the chairman and the other members of this task force.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lundgren. At this time, we'll proceed with the final report by the representative from the United States Government Accountability Office.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Gonzalez, members of the task force, we have submitted the formal statement for the record, and I'm going to summarize briefly what our statement says. I'm here today to present the findings on our Florida 13 review based on the testing we conducted on iBotronic voting machines used in the 2006 general election in the Sarasota County, Florida. I'd like to begin by thanking the task force for its overall support of our efforts, and specifically for the assistance provided in obtaining the resources of the House recording studio, which were critical in successfully completing our tests. At the October 2nd, 2007 meeting of the task force, we proposed, and you asked us to proceed with 3 tests: firmware verification test, ballot test, and calibration test, in order to obtain increased assurance that the iBotronic voting machines did not contribute to the large undervote observed in the 2006 elections in Sarasota County. To conduct the 3 tests, we developed test protocols and detailed test procedures. We met with officials from Sarasota County Supervisor of Elections and the Florida Department of State and Florida Division of Elections in order to make necessary arrangements to obtain access to the voting machines and to schedule and conduct the tests. Thanks to everyone's cooperation and help, we have been able to successfully complete our testing during November 26th through December 4th, 2007, in Sarasota County's voting equipment facility in Sarasota, Florida. Our tests on the randomly selected iBotronic machines in Sarasota County did not identify any problems that would indicate that the machines were responsible for the undervote in the Florida 13 race in the 2006 general election. In our firmware verification test, we extracted the firmware from a random sample of 115 iBotronics and found that in each case, the firmware extracted from the machines matched the firmware that was escrowed and certified by Florida Division of Elections. The statistical approach that we used in selecting these machines enables us to say with 99% confidence level that no more than 60 of the 1,499 iBotronics that were used in 2006 election could have been running a different version of software. Consequently, we were able to place more confidence in the tests that we conducted on a smaller number of machines, both we conducted as well as the ones that were conducted by others in the past, results of which have indicated that the iBotronics did not cause the undervote. Prior to the Sarasota testing on November 19, 2007, we had visited the manufacturer of the voting machine, ES&S, in their Rockford, Illinois facility and observed as they rebuilt the firmware from source code that was previously held in escrow by Florida Division of Elections. The software that was rebuilt from that source code, we observed that that software matches the firmware that was held in escrow and that was certified by Florida Division of Elections. This provides further confidence in the prior source code reviews that were conducted by a team from Florida State University and by us. For the ballot testing, we cast predefined test ballots on 10 iBotronic machines and confirmed that each ballot was displayed and recorded accurately. The test ballots represented 112 ways a voter may have interacted with the iBotronic to cast a ballot in the Florida 13 race. These test ballots were cast on 9 machines that were configured as election day machines and repeated on 1 machine configured as an early voting machine. Finally, we conducted a calibration testing by miscalibrating 2 of the iBotronics and casting some of the test ballots on them. Our tests involving 10 different miscalibration patterns and capturing a total of 39 votes on the 2 machines found that although the machines became more difficult to use with miscalibration, they displayed the selections that were displayed on the screen for the Florida 13 race were the same ones that appeared on the review screen and then recorded when the ballots were cast. Based on the testings that we have conducted, we obtained increased assurance that the iBotronic voting machines used in Sarasota County's 2006 general election did not contribute to the large undervote in the Florida 13 contest. Although the test results cannot be used to provide absolute assurance, we believe that these test results, combined with the other reviews that have been conducted by State of Florida, us, and others, have significantly reduced the possibility that the iBotronic machines were the cause of the undervote. At this point, we believe that adequate testing has been performed on the voting machine software to reach this conclusion, and we do not recommend further testing in this area. Given the complex interaction of people, process, and technology that must effectively work together to achieve a successful election, we acknowledge the possibility that the large undervote in the Florida 13 race could have been caused by factors such as voters who intentionally undervoted or voters who may not have properly cast their ballots on the iBotronic machine, potentially because of issues relating to interaction between the voters and the ballot. Mr. Chairman, this concludes a summary of my written statement. I'd be happy to answer any questions you or other members of the task force may have at this time. Thank you.
The chair is going to recognize himself for some preliminary questions and then, of course, turn it over to my colleagues. But Dr. Barkakaki, I have a couple of questions. First of all, that you were specifically charged with simply looking as to whether the electronic machines malfunction and may have been the culprit in the undervote. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
we did not ask you to look into ballot design.
No, we did not look at the ballot design.
And we did not ask you to go and look into either voter or apathy or just where they were totally turned off by the tenor of the campaign and decided to intentionally or deliberately not vote in Florida 13. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
In conducting your testing and the protocols, because, of course, again, for just general information, you came before the task force with your intended protocols as to how you were going to conduct your testing. And in arriving at that protocol, did you entertain suggestions, recommendations, basic input from all the parties, including the contestant, the contestee, Florida election officials, Florida State University personnel that conducted some previous testing and their experts, as well as suggestions and recommendations or observations from the manufacturer of the voting machine?
Yes, sir. We did entertain all of those inputs in deciding the test protocols and procedures.
Okay. Now, there are many individuals that are interested in this for a lot of reasons because it goes beyond this particular Florida 13 contested election. And as much as I'd like to just contain everything to the question at hand, and which will basically form the basis for everything that we do, we're not going to expand it. However, we do have individuals out there that have expressed great interest. And I have one individual who emailed some information to my office this morning. And so I do want to go ahead and ask some of the questions that that he has actually posed. And one would be, it's the personalized electronic ballots, or PEB cards, used to activate each voter's ballot for the DRE, the electronic voting machine, contains firmware separate from the firmware for the DRE itself. And this individual believes that that could have been a culprit. That could have been giving you some insight as to whether the machines malfunctioned, outside of that which you may have tested specifically. How would you address this individual's concern regarding the PEB card, which you cover extensively in your final report?
Sir, the PEB, personalized electronic ballot, holds, it does have a little bit of a computing capability to transmit back and forth information with the Ibotronic machine using infrared communication mechanism. However, besides that, it's primarily a memory device to hold data. And it holds initially the ballot definitions that are going to be used to display the ballots on the screen. However, when you open the machine, you copy all of those into the Ibotronic, and then from that point on, the PEB is only an activator device. It can activate to get started. So there were some allegations that maybe the PEB was displaying different ballot to different people. However, it only is copied once, and then the same ballot display is used over and over again. And we have seen that every machine that was used in all the 157 precincts had votes cast on the Florida 13 race. So we could not have had a situation where it was selectively not displaying ballot. We have checked into that part, that the PEB could not have been the cause of the problem, including the fact that the PEB is not the one that does the primary of all the calculations or displaying of the ballot. It's all done in the firmware that's inside the Ibotronic machine itself. As I said, the PEB does have a small capability to send things back and forth, and that's all to the extent it does some work. So what I'm saying is that we looked at the whole situation of if the PEB could be a cause, both us as well as the source code review team that looked at the same scenarios, and we concluded that it could not be the reason for the undervote, essentially.
All right, now my second question, again taken from this particular individual, and I'm going to read specifically from the email. It is conceivable that, and even likely that, were there bugs in the user interface in the Sarasota machines, such as intermittent smooth and filter problems or other anomalies, these, A, could have occurred regardless of whether the software, firmware, were identical, and B, would not have been uncovered without greater volume testing with actual use of the interface, especially in conditions resembling election day use. Can you respond?
Yes, sir. We actually, as you might recall, there was some mention that the smoothing filter was one of those letters that came from, I think, ES&S to the county saying that we have a smoothing filter that we want to change, and it'll help improve performance of the machine in terms of responsiveness. Now, the source code review team in Florida State University, they said they didn't find the smoothing filter. However, when we were looking at it, because we already knew that that was an issue coming up, we could find certain elements that I was able to confirm with the manufacturer that constituted what they were calling smoothing filter. It essentially is very simple to explain. It's basically the machine doesn't want to give you, as soon as you touch, it doesn't want to assume that you have touched it yet. It records the point, and then it waits a little bit, like a 200 millisecond or so, and then tries to get another data point to see that both are close enough. And if they're not close enough, then they assume that, well, maybe it's a spurious thing, then I would ignore it. That's the logic built in. And that logic is what was called smoothing filter. Now, how close the two touches have to be is the threshold that they can play with to get it to be like more sensitive, less sensitive kind of thing. If it's like wide, as you can imagine, if the threshold is wide, it doesn't matter. If another touch is slightly farther off, it will assume them to be the same. Whereas if you tighten them up, it takes longer because the touch screens do have some noisy, data going back and forth. So basically the bottom line was the smoothing filter was not more of a mystery after that. I could understand what it was, and we figured it out. And the proposal they had made was simply to widen the threshold to make it more responsive. Now, regardless of all of that, we were looking at the source code that handles the display and the recording of the vote. That is not going to be affected at all by other than the machine's response might be slow. In other words, like you might take a little time to get the mark to show up, but the machine isn't going to suddenly misbehave because it's slightly slower in response. And that actually almost explains the other element which we might have read, like non-deterministic behavior. Well, because the touch screen, I mean, depending on the time, some other conditions, it may, have other spurious things going on whereby that filter that I talked about, the closeness of two touches, maybe it's not being met. And if it's not being met, that condition is not met, then the system waits a little bit longer to get another touch, So it looks like it's, well, is it waiting for me to get, accept my input? That's what the user would feel like. But bottom line of all of that is, regardless of all of that it isn't going to affect anywhere at all in terms of what selection is displayed to the user and what selection is recorded. So from that, we are concluding that essentially, if the machine is displaying a selection, that will be the one displayed in the review screen and recorded when you press the vote button. And that is the bottom line that we're going after in the technological study. So I guess it's a very long way of explaining, but I think we did understand, we looked into all of that when you understood what it was, smoothing filter was, and what the company was intending to do when they had sent that letter, and what its effect might have been. And regardless of all of that, we were able to confirm sort of like the same thing that the source code review team from Florida State University had said. It wasn't going to affect the vote display and recording of the machine.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I will recognize Congressman McCarthy at this time for his questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In reading your report and listening to you, when we first started out and talking to you about whether you could do this work and setting out some parameters to look at it, you told us that the closest statistically anyone can get is 99%. Now, in hearing your report, you say you are at 99% sure every single vote that was voted has been counted and counted correctly. Is that true?
I guess it's a bit nuanced in the sense that the statistical portion of it applies to the confirming that every machine was running the same software. So that does have a 99% confidence level that most machines are running the same software. The remaining part is based on a logic, essentially, that kind of like in an assembly line or something, when you have a lot of same widgets being built, you can take one and sample, and it's okay because everybody's same. Extending that logic, we're able to say that, well, we test a small number of machines, they record votes properly and display things properly. Therefore, that applies to the whole population. And then taking the abundance of all the testing that has been done in the past by Florida, state of Florida and others, we are basically forming the judgment, which is what we said that we collectively think everything has been done to eliminate the machine as the cause of the undervote. So in a way, you're getting the answer, but the 99% number in a nuanced way applies only to the conclusion that the firmware is the same. But the rest should be, since that's our basically logic, as I explained, was the reason behind coming up with the conclusion that adequate testing has been done to eliminate the machine. So essentially, you are getting the conclusion without the 99% number associated with it, because statisticians are not going to let me say it that way. No, because it's incorrect.
So in my world, we'd say 100%, but I understand. And I will tell you, having been a individual that worked on staff on some other contested races, this one has been more thoroughly investigated than anyone I've seen. You had an independent Florida State review prior to it ever coming to Congress review, and we even had some of the individuals that did the research on that before us testifying other times, and I found that to be very thorough and very correct. In reading your report, you even said you miscalibrated the machines and they still worked properly.
Yes, the miscalibration was really meant to, a small amount and a larger amount of miscalibration, to see the effect of it, essentially. And what we observed is that, and we wanted to confirm that even miscalibrated, if it's showing you something as the selection you're making, then that would be the selection that will eventually get recorded in the memory inside the machine. That's what our goal was. And we did find that all of the machines, even with smaller, larger amount of miscalibration, of course, gets hard to use. And they're so obvious in terms of bigger miscalibrations have become so obvious that you probably will, officials have told us that they would have probably found that right away and put that out of service in any case. But regardless, coming back to your question, we did do that, and we found that in each case, they definitely were displaying, if you can make any selection on the screen, that is the selection that's going to be essentially your choice that will be recorded. So we confirmed that, yes.
That's very interesting, really to the American public too, because Mr. Ehlers always points out to us, even when you went back and you just did paper and you'd recount, you'd always find one or two difference because you had human error touching it a number of times. And here we had individuals researching numerous different ways in the computer, and it came out where no vote was different, and it all worked properly. So that is nice to know, because I think our goal here was set out first when the challenger came in and wanted the election overturned, and we went through this research here. We have found time and time again that every vote in the 13th District of Florida was counted properly and was put forward. So that's really a testament to the American public and to this district that they know their election was honest, true, and correct. And I applaud the work you've done and the work that the others have done prior, because we've never researched it this thoroughly, and I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCarthy. The chair will recognize Ms. Lofgren.
Mr. Chairman, you asked the questions that I was going to ask, so I'm happy for that. I would just note that on page 12 of the report, the GAO does make a suggestion that a voter verified paper trail could provide an independent confirmation, and obviously we can't create that retroactively, but looking forward, I think that is something that we hope that jurisdictions will look to do, and we will be hopefully in the near future pursuing that kind of endeavor at the federal level. So as with the other members of the task force, there was a big undervote. We don't know why. I will say that when I looked at the replica of the ballot on page 10, I didn't notice, because of the way it's set out, that there was actually an election above the state. So we'll never know, but I think that had an impact here. I think that it's important that we have discharged our duty here with the help of GAO in a way that has been nonpartisan, really, because our obligation is not as Democrats or Republicans. Our obligation is to find out as best we can what happened and to make a decision based on that alone. And I think that's what we've done, and that's what we should have done. And I feel very satisfied with the process, and I'm eager to put this behind us and get on to other business. So I don't know if there are other questions. At the appropriate time, I have a motion to make.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lofgren, and the chair will recognize Mr. Ehlers, the ranking member of the full committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I will be very brief. First of all, I just want to thank the GAO that did a very thorough job under difficult circumstances, and I commend you for your work. The other comment I would make is to agree with Ms. Lofgren about the ballot design. I had exactly the same experience. When I looked at the ballot, I actually missed the congressional race. And I think this is a valuable experience, too, and that in terms that has been transmitted nationwide. And I think every county clerk, city clerk, township clerk, and state secretary of state will be looking at ballot design more carefully in the future. With that, I yield back.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ehlers, and the chair recognizes Mr. Lundgren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Barkakati, I know statisticians don't like to say certain things and so forth, but is it fair to say, to summarize in part what you said, that based on the work that your organization has done and based on your review of those other organizations that did testing, you do not see a need for any additional testing, or not suggesting to this committee that we request any additional testing to answer the questions you were requested to answer?
Yes, sir, I agree with your statement. We are not suggesting any further testing. Based on all the things we have seen so far and done so far.
I thank you. And I join my colleagues in suggesting that the ballot design is something that needs to be looked at, but I also may be the only one willing to confess that I have gone to the ballot at times and intentionally not voted in certain elections to show my protest over the way the campaign was conducted. And I just note that this was a hard-fought campaign, not only in the general, but in the primary. And voters sometimes respond in that way, and I think we ought to recognize, or at least I will admit I have been one that has done that and had I been in similar situations, maybe you would be investigating as to why I didn't vote. But I thank the chairman once again for the professional way in which he has handled this, and all the members of the task force.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lundgren. Now I'm going to finish up with a couple of questions. One that was actually posed by a representative for the contestant. And even though this was not your charge, and we understand that, and I don't want to get too far afield, but there have been some, obviously we all have our take on what may have happened, ballot design or simply voter that was simply turned off. Probably more ballot design if we look at it somewhat objectively, and the reason for that is that the undervote was experienced in this degree or extent in Sarasota. So it couldn't be that just the apathy or the intolerance or the disgust stopped at the county line, and nor was it reflected, I believe, in the absentee voting or those votes that were cast by methods other than the ES&S machine. So the question is as follows. Has the GAO reached any conclusions about whether the unusually elevated undervote rate was due to intentional undervoting or to unintentional human factors such as voter confusion caused by poor ballot design?
Unfortunately, we didn't do anything to determine between those two what might be the reason, except for knowing the other citations. People that have stated that ballot design might be an issue, we are aware of those kind of things, but we did not really evaluate to kind of try to eliminate one versus the other. So unfortunately, I don't think we have any conclusive statement about whether it was the ballot design that might have caused it or the intentional, undervoting that caused it. That's probably all I could. I mean, I'm aware of we have mentioned in the past statement that there were other, I think, experiments being done on using humans to see human subjects to see whether you can miss it or not by, for instance, a professor in MIT that we know of, and Ted Selker is the name. And then for that one, I mean, we know that the work is proceeding on that area to find out whether ballot design might have been the reason, but he hasn't finished the whole results, I guess, yet. And he was working with ES&S machines, actually, using the same ballot layout and all. So there may be some results coming out from that in the future, which might provide, more light into this area.
Because I think people still want some answer. And
right.
Of course, that wasn't the central allegation that we had to resolve here before the committee. One last observation, of course, is this really does point out, and it goes back to ballot design. It doesn't matter how sophisticated and reliable the voting machine may be. It could even have a paper trail. But at the end of this whole process, it's that ballot design that many times can be confusing. And we know that Florida has more or less been the poster child, but they have moved forward. But still, ballot design could still present a real problem, as whether it was a butterfly ballot in 2000 or whether it was 2006 Florida 13 election. So we understand the tremendous challenge that local election officials have, and we would just caution them to take, I guess, again, every precaution out there that they possibly could regarding how they design that ballot for presentation. The last thing I want to say is that every candidate for office has a right, when they're running for the United States House of Representatives, to challenge the validity of the election if obviously they were not the victor. And that is their right. And then it is the constitutional duty of the United States Congress then to pass on whether someone is going to be seated and sworn in as a member of the House. And I think that was our charge, that was our duty. We want to thank everyone that assisted us in performing that duty. At this time, I'm going to recognize Ms. Lofgren for the purpose of making a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the chairman be authorized and directed to report to the committee that the task force has completed its investigation related to the election of a representative from the 13th Congressional District of Florida to the House of Representatives, and I move further that the chairman report to the committee the task force's recommendation that the election contest in the 13th District of Florida be dismissed.
At this time, task force members, if they're in favor, will register by signaling aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. It's unanimous, the ayes, and we will proceed with this formal adoption of the motion and report it to the full committee for its consideration at a later date. And with that, we stand adjourned.